Welcome to this talk on sleep, which is a very important pillar of health. Sleep is the elixir of life. It's the anchor to a healthy life and optimal living. There is nothing that sleep does not impact. Sleep is essential for our immune function, hormonal regulation, detoxification, mood regulation, learning, and memory. For example, even one night of poor sleep of around 4 hours has been shown to reduce the natural killer cell activity by about 70%. These cells are really important as part of our innate immune system, which helps to fight off infections and cancer. Hormonal regulation happens when we sleep, so that includes hormones such as insulin, leptin, and ghrelin, which are important for weight and metabolism. In the same way that we have a lymphatic system in the body, we have a glymphatic system in the brain. These are channels that open up during sleep, which allow the brain to cleanse and literally wash itself of toxins. And this was something that was discovered only around 10 years ago. Mood regulation occurs when we sleep, especially during REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. So sleep is also really important for our emotional healing. Learning and memory is consolidated during sleep, and we also know that beta amyloid, which is a marker for Alzheimer's dementia, is washed away while we sleep. And if we don't sleep, that builds up and can contribute towards learning, memory, and cognition issues. 1/3 of our lives is meant to be sleeping. So if you think about someone who's around 82, they've spent 27 years of their life sleeping. It's very important, and it's only relatively recently that we've discovered all the functions of sleep. Generally speaking, we need around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Of course, this is different for everyone, but we're talking around what's general and what applies to most people. The critical time period is around 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., so a lot of this hormonal regulation and detoxification is occurring in those early hours. We're generally a sleep deficient population, and many studies here and in the US have shown that at least 2/3 of us are sleep deprived and do not sleep well, and that sleep deprivation is a public health epidemic. The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. Professor Matthew Walker is a sleep researcher in California, and he wrote a fantastic book called Why We Sleep. So if you're interested in sleep and why we need it and the consequences of not getting enough sleep, then this is a great read. Basically, what we now know is that pretty much everything and all the chronic illnesses that we're seeing today, including heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, and cancer, all have recognized causal links to a lack of sleep. This is another wonderful quote by Professor Matthew Walker. Sleep is the tide that raises all the other health boats. Sleep is indeed one of our greatest reset buttons, and it's the single most effective thing we can do every day to reset our brain and body. When it comes to sleep debt, we can't just pay it back. So if we lost sleep the night before, we can't just make up for it the next day. So it's really important to have that sleep routine each and every day as best as we can. It's been shown from studies that routinely sleeping less than 6 or 7 hours a night demolishes the immune system, can double the risk of cancer. The physical and mental impairments caused by even one night of bad sleep dwarf those and are more significant than that caused by an equivalent absence of food or exercise. Even though what we do before bed to get a good night's sleep is important, it's also important to appreciate the importance of daylight and also things we can do during the daytime to enhance our sleep later on. In the morning, we have what is known as the cortisol awakening response. So this is where we have high cortisol levels in the morning, which literally wakes us up and gets us alert and ready for the day. Sunlight also stimulates a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that helps to reduce melatonin. So essentially, in the morning, we have high cortisol levels, which help our wakefulness and alertness, and we have low melatonin levels. And generally, as the day goes on, the cortisol levels will reduce, and in the evening, the melatonin will rise, and that will help to make us sleepy. Another important factor is something called adenosine, and that's a byproduct of glucose metabolism. This molecule, it's lowest in the morning, but increases as the day goes on, making us sleepy as well. But factors such as caffeine, alcohol, excess light in the evenings can all disturb this process as well. So what happens when we don't sleep? Well, as we know, sleep impacts everything. When there is lack of sleep, there's increased response to stress, somatic pain, reduced quality of life, mood disorders and emotional distress, and it also impacts our learning, memory, and cognition. There's increased activity of our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight mechanism, there's metabolic effects, and there's pro-inflammatory changes as well. There's an increased risk of physical and mental health conditions, including cancer, such as colorectal and breast cancer, diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease and hypertension. Mental health disorders can also increase when we don't have enough sleep, including anxiety, depression, suicidal intent and suicide, and substance abuse. There's also increased risk of dementia, reduced immunity, and also increased work-related and car accidents. A few lifestyle factors that affect our sleep include caffeine, alcohol, night shifts, and blue light. We'll focus on caffeine and alcohol here, but it's important to bear in mind that night shifts have also been shown to increase the risk of chronic illnesses, including cancer, and have also been deemed to be a potential carcinogen by the World Health Organization. It's also important to reduce blue light because this also reduces our melatonin production, which not only helps us to sleep, but is also a powerful antioxidant. Caffeine. Caffeine affects the quality of our sleep. So the half-life of caffeine is 6 to 9 hours and the quarter life is 12 hours. So what that means is that if you have a coffee after dinner at around 7:30 p.m., about 6 hours later at around 1:30 a.m., half of it is still circulating in the body. If you have a coffee at midday, it means that a quarter of the caffeine is still around in the system at midnight. So that's why it's really important to have coffee early if you do drink coffee, or any caffeinated drink for that matter, and definitely by 2 o'clock at the latest, and if you're particularly sensitive, about midday. Of course, everyone is different. Some people metabolize caffeine slowly, some faster than others. These are general principles. We have to also bear in mind that caffeine is not just in coffee, it's also found in less concentration in black and green tea, but also dark chocolate. So even a little bit of dark chocolate in the evening or lots of black and green tea can still build up to a lot of caffeine that can disrupt sleep. We also have to bear in mind that decaffeinated coffee or drinks still contain a little bit of caffeine. So people may need to avoid those as well if they're particularly sensitive. Alcohol. Even 1 unit of alcohol has been shown to affect sleep quality, so even happy hours can be disruptive. It can affect one type of sleep called the REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. This is where there's a lot of emotional processing happening, but also learning, memory, and cognition, and information consolidation. So alcohol disrupts that REM sleep, which causes sleep fragmentation, and it also activates our sympathetic nervous system. Alcohol has also been shown to affect our brain structure, including shrinkage of the brain and also damage to the grey and white matter of the brain as well. We also have to remember that sleep itself is dehydrating. We actually lose water while we're sleeping. So if people have also had alcohol and perhaps have coffee the next day, we can be in quite a dehydrated state. So fluid intake is really important also for sleep as well, and especially if you're drinking caffeine and alcohol. So what are practical things that we can do right now to improve our sleep? There's general lifestyle things, which includes reducing stress, addressing our diet, exercise, and environmental factors. That's what we're going to focus on now, but it's important to bear in mind that supplements can also help, and that psychological support, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, can also be helpful as well. Let's discuss some general tips first. First and foremost, it's important to have a regular sleep cycle. Ideally, you want to be going to bed and wake up at the same time every day. That includes the weekends and the weekdays. So ideally not to have that lie-in over the weekends. The regularity is key. Good to avoid naps in the late afternoon or evening, but there's nothing wrong with napping, and if you do need to have a nap, that's totally fine. But try and keep it short to about 30 minutes and preferably before around 3 o'clock. Ideally aim to be in bed around 10 or 11 o'clock, and have a routine, around half an hour to an hour before bed, just trying to wind down and relax and prepare yourself for sleeping. It's important to eat early, around 6, 7 o'clock, and at least 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. If there is a full stomach before going to bed, digestion won't happen effectively, and that in turn will affect gut health. It's also important to exercise for sleep, but also to ensure that that's done during the day and preferably earlier, usually before 6 o'clock. If people exercise too late, that can increase their cortisol and adrenaline levels, which will also impact sleep as well. During sleep, our core body temperature drops, so things that we can do to help that include having a hot bath or shower, having non-caffeinated herbal tea, wearing socks, as well as Epsom salts baths, and also adding lavender oil, which also promotes sleep as well. Simple things to also just consider is things like the mattress and pillows and bedding, and whether they're supportive enough as well. Really important to reduce stress before going to bed, so having it an hour or two before bed to just try and wind down and relax is really good. Try and avoid work or anything that's potentially stimulating or anxiety provoking, like watching the news or doing the taxes, at least an hour or so before bed. If you find that the mind is sort of distracted and uneasy, then consider journaling. This helps to do this brain dumping, which it just helps to get your thoughts out onto paper and clear the brain as well. Music can be calming and relaxing. Meditation is fantastic before bedtime. There can be breath-focused meditations. You can use apps such as Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer. There's also some yoga poses that can be helpful as well. So simple things like legs up the wall and forward folds and child's pose, they can also be very calming and restorative as well. Yoga Nidra is like a progressive muscle relaxation body scan from one of the yoga traditions, and that's also been shown to improve the quality of sleep and be very restorative. It's important to count your blessings at the end of the day, and even though it sounds nice, there's actually been studies saying that this actually promotes sleep as well. If sleep issues are ongoing, it's really important to consider some professional help. So we want to make sure that we've ruled out any sleep disorders or sleep apnea and other mental health disorders as well. So important to see someone for professional advice if there are ongoing sleep issues. Dietary factors, so we've touched on caffeine and alcohol. So just to recap, ideally avoid caffeine after 2 o'clock, and if you're very sensitive, avoid it after midday. Avoid alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Try and eliminate anything after dinner, especially even dark chocolate, because that does have caffeine as well. Important to ensure adequate fluid intake, because sleep itself is also dehydrating, so it's good to have adequate water intake during the day, and also when you wake up, it's also good to have some water then as well. Avoid high sodium foods because that affects our vascular tone. And studies have actually shown that diets high in sugar and low in fiber can actually contribute towards interrupted sleep and reduced deep sleep. When it comes to environmental factors, there's 4 main areas: light, temperature, noise, and electromagnetic radiation. When it comes to light, it's really important, as we said before, to get natural sunlight first thing in the morning. Ideally outdoors, and also to get some walking or other physical activity in there as well. In the nighttime, it's good to reduce light intensity, especially an hour or so before bed, so using dimmer lights or Himalayan salt lamps. If you're having to do any work using the laptop or on your phone, you can also consider using amber glasses, which help to block out the blue light. When it comes to the room itself, just ensure it's sufficiently dark and use shades and eye cover if necessary. Our core body temperature does drop during sleep, and we also know that a cool room temperature around 18 to 20 degrees is favorable. When it comes to noise, if you're quite sensitive, again, use earplugs, maybe use white noise generators, and also check appliances for noise as well. Electromagnetic radiation, there's been a lot more research on this recently, and it's important to reduce this as best as we can. We can't control the EMR around us from other residences, but at least we can control what we have in our room and our own homes. So simple things would just be switching off the Wi-Fi at night, having the phone on airplane mode, and just ensuring there's no other electrical devices in the room, or at least making sure that they're switched off. Try and also avoid electric blankets while you're sleeping. Fine to warm the bed up beforehand, but try not to keep it on while you sleep. If you're having difficulty falling or staying asleep, then try and get up and do something. Simple things like meditation, simple yoga stretches, reading a book in low lighting. Consider wearing an eye patch if you find yourself waking up too early. And if you find yourself quite distracted with recurrent thoughts, then consider journaling. So what are some of the key takeaway points that we can start implementing now? First and foremost, prioritize sleep. It is an absolutely critical pillar of health, and it impacts everything. Go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time every single day, whether it's a weekday or a weekend. Generally speaking, aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep and aim to go to bed around 10, 11 o'clock at night. About an hour or two before bed, reduce light exposure and also ensure that the bedroom is cool, around 18 to 20 degrees, and that you've addressed noise and electromagnetic radiation. Don't have any caffeine after 2 o'clock and midday if you're quite sensitive, and not have any alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. Really good to get natural sunlight first thing in the morning, because that also will help your sleep later on as well. So we've discussed why we need to sleep, the health consequences of not getting enough sleep, i.e. all chronic disease, lifestyle factors that affect our sleep, and also some simple practical strategies that we can start to improve our sleep today. I hope you found this talk helpful, and think about what you are already implementing and think about what can still be improved, and maybe even just think about one thing that you can start working on today rather than be overwhelmed on trying to do so many things and so many changes. Thank you for listening. Good night and sweet dreams.